Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal High Court sitting in Lagos rejects application of former Aviation Minister Femi Fani-Kayode seeking the transfer of his trial for an alleged 4.9 billion naira fraud to Abuja. INEC officials storm National Assembly complex in Abuja to serve Senator Dino Melaye his recall notice submitted by members of his constituency in Kogi West. We begin our series spotlighting Nigeria's search of a rebirth ahead of the country's 57th independence anniversary with politics. And Kenya police disperse protesters demanding sack of election officials ahead of the October the 26th rerun election. Remember that for more on our top stories and others, please visit our websites channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb, and log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the Eyewitness feature, with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and then follow the instructions. Well, let's take a look at some of those pictures that were sent in to us, and we can begin with this one from the Yaba College of Technology here in Lagos State, showing a lecture room. Our eyewitness reporter claims the lockers and chairs there are infested with bed bugs and wants the authorities to fumigate the school. Also in Lagos is this picture from Aton Ayobo showing a flooded area. Our eyewitness reporter says this was caused by poor drainage in that area. Staying with poor drainage is this picture from New Ife-Ibadan Highway in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, showing another flooded area. Our eyewitness reporter is asking the government to do something about it. And let's end with this picture from Enugu-Onisha route, showing the state of the road there. Our eyewitness reporter alleges that the road has been this way for a while, but nothing has been done to fix it. Thanks for your pictures, and do send us some more. Now let's get a bit of perspective on the nation's politics at 57. That's after independence. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a professor of international law at the University of Lagos, Professor Akin Oyebode. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us on the news at 10.
You're most welcome.
Let's start off from a point where many seem to agree that the nation needs fixing. And I remember you were one of those who had said that the 1963 Constitution is the way to do it. Do you still think so?
Well, maybe we need to reinvent the wheel because there are certain forces in Nigeria that don't want a return to regionalism, which was the motive lever of our development in the immediate post-colonial period. But the problems of today are the problems that we call the national question, then underdevelopment, material underdevelopment, and then cohesion in terms of policy formulation and implementation. I think we have to begin from the point that Nigeria is a work in progress. It's never finished. And when Lord Lugard amalgamated various groups into what he called Nigeria, nobody asked from our forefathers, our great-great-grandparents, whether or not they wanted to live under one canopy. So Nigeria was a creature of British imperialism. And if you read Lord Lugard, his dual mandate in a tropical dependency, which he wrote in 1918, he confessed that the British came specifically for raw materials and markets for their manufactured goods. So religion and development were incidental to the needs of British imperialism. And I believe that even when one of our founding fathers, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, was writing in 1947, he admitted that Nigeria was essentially a geographical expression, and that you can't talk of Nigeria as you could talk of the Welsh, the Irish, the Scots, or the English. So this has been the undoing of Nigeria, bringing into existence a political system that should really address the needs and interests of over 400 ethnic nationalities.
But if you say we are in work in progress,
yes,
here we are what we are, however we came to be together. And others have said, what should this name be called? Restructuring, reinvention. What do you think, what do you define it as?
I think I buy the expression which I used here previously, but which Professor Wole Soyinka used. We have to reconfigure Nigeria. In other words, what we have on the table is not working. You remember Ekeremadu's statement about feeding bottle federalism. At the confab, I said we're operating a skewed caricature of a federal system. Some people will tell you there's no ideal model of federalism. But what we have in Nigeria is a quasi-unitary setup. And that is not what we should have. We are so complex in nature. I said 400 plus ethnic nationalities. The only way, like Chifawolawa opined, for such an agglomeration to exist is a federal structure. So the question we want to ask is this a federal setup? If it is not a federal setup, then we have to actually create the federal structure and not continue to pretend that Decree 24 of 1999 that masquerades itself as the Constitution of Nigeria is the viable solution to our problems. Even General Abdul Salam saw the decree as what you can call a modus vivendi, a temporary agreement pending when the political class decided to jettison it and come with a fundamental law for Nigeria which addresses the needs and interests of the generality of Nigerians. So we are living a lie, like the patriots pointed out. We are neither federal in structure, and we are neither Republican, if I must say. You remember the story by Mrs. Jones, the British travelogue writer, who said Nigeria was a republic of 100 kings. That's a contradiction. Are we a republic or we are a monarchy? Because I see potentates carrying staff of office and wearing all manner of paraphernalia. Yes. But this is a republic. We call ourselves the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Are we really a republic? And are we really federal? So there are so many unanswered questions that Nigeria has to address. And I don't buy the ignorant statement, pardon the expression, that Nigeria has a unity that is non-negotiable.
All right, well, thank you, sir. Yes, thank you so very much. Professor of Law, International Law at the University of Lagos, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10 tonight. Let's go over to Abuja now. Here's Gloria Umezo. Okay, Gloria.
Hello. A man suspected to be a Boko Haram member and declared wanted by the Nigerian army has been arrested by the police in Ondo State. Army spokesman Brigadier General Sani Usman, in a statement, explains that 42-year-old Idris Ibrahim Babawo, nicknamed Idiko and Nagada, is believed to be on number 165 on the wanted Boko Haram terrorist list. He adds that Babawo was handed over to the 32nd Brigade 2 Division of the Nigerian Army by the Ondo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force yesterday. He adds that preliminary investigation shows that the suspected terrorist hailed from Chinede village in Katagum local government area of Bauchi State, but escaped from the northeast owing to the military's onslaught on the terrorists. The governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, is calling for the restructuring of the police for better security of lives. The governor's demand comes in the wake of the deadly attack by gunmen on the Ogba Zoo in Benin City. 3 police officers were killed in that attack and the manager of the zoo abducted.
and killed 3 policemen.
Quite unfortunate, because if you realize we've not had a situation like this in a long while. You know, as we move towards the end of the year, these sort of occurrences are not unusual, but we've taken necessary steps. We believe we have enough information on what has happened. I'm going to go to Abuja tomorrow. I'm going to try and see Mr. President, and I'm going to insist that our police command here be restructured and made more supportive of our efforts to curb crime and improve security. It's something we have to take on with the federal authorities.
For Africa to finance its development and meet its 2063 goal on economic transformation over the next 50 years, there is a need to close the financing gap created by tax evasion and other taxation inadequacies. Well, this is one of the submissions by delegates at the 3rd Africa Tax Administration Forum in Abuja, the federal capital city.
In order to maintain their objective of a better tax administration to drive sustainable development on the continent, 25 tax administration bodies in Africa formed the Africa Tax Administration Forum in August 2008.
Merci beaucoup.
Since then, the body has held 2 conferences with the aim of achieving that goal. This edition, holding in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, is the 3rd in the series.
We are particularly looking at company, corporate income tax, personal income tax, and value-added tax.
Much has been done by the government of Nigeria to boost its tax administration. The nation's chief revenue officer believes his strategies will yield the desired results.
Nigeria as a country still has one of the lowest percentages in terms of tax to GDP. Part of the issue is that there have not been consequences for tax offenders, which is about to change. With the launch of VATES, all Nigerians, both individual and corporate organizations, have been given the opportunity to come forth and, as they say, sin no more.
But there will also be stiffer punishment for tax evaders, especially among multinational companies operating on the continent.
Looking back, particularly to Africa, into our history, we have always had tax systems of one sort or another. Basic, primal in some cases, but we've always had effective systems of collective mobilization of revenue. The problem with oil and other commodities is it effectively destroyed some of those systems.
Aside from evasion, there are also a number of challenges facing tax administration on the continent, as spelled out by Nigeria's Vice President.
The constraints are similar, though in varying degrees in several countries across the continent. They include a large informal sector, including large subsistence agricultural sectors, tax evasion, tax avoidance, tax exemptions, and inequitable and opaque rent-sharing arrangements.
As he formally declares the 3-day conference open, Professor Shimbajo expresses the hope that this conference will proffer solutions to those challenges.
When the news at 10 returns, Central Bank of Nigeria Monetary Policy Committee keeps MPR unchanged at 14% for the 7th time in a row. But that's in business news. Please join us again.